This guy stinks. You know, I can just
spill it all over my page like that.
What's up? Welcome to Troy Draws Things. I'm Troy. Today, I wanted to take a look at some ink. Specifically, I wanted to compare a variety of ink that I have. You can't see it, but my head is tapping the microphone on the other camera. Anyway, alright, I've got a variety of ink, some, various, got a lot of ink, and I thought today I'd take a look at the ink that I have and compare it on a various scale and see, what's the best ink. I know I've found some inks that I prefer that are my go-to, but there's a lot of inks that I haven't used in a while, and as things change, my ideas of what is a good ink might change. And I thought you might also appreciate seeing a comparison of all the various inks I have and what I think about them. And if you're looking to buy some inks, maybe this will help you choose. Okay, so I have 6 bottles of ink over here, and I've determined 4 categories that I'm going to be judging them on. The first is thickness, second is opacity, then flow, and the final is how waterproof is it. So the first thing I'm going to start out with is the Speedball calligraphy ink. See if I can get that. Yeah, there we go. This is a guy, if you buy a quill set, this is what's going to come with it by default. And this, from my experience, has not been one of my favorite inks. I always found it to be a little bit watery, but I'm going to hold off on judging it until I actually, use it for the purposes of this video. Gotta wet my brush a little bit. Nothing like a fresh rag. Alright, gonna lay down some of the Speedball. And like I remembered, it's fairly watery. See. But now that I'm looking at it, it actually seems to have better opacity than I remember it having. So we're going to be done with the Speedball for now. Next, we'll do Winsor Newton India ink. It's liquid India ink. Never used a solid ink. And this guy, this is not part of the criteria. This guy stinks. I don't know. It smells like nail polish and dirty gym socks. Wait, Winsor Newton's over here. Let's not get it mixed up. Should be doing this in order, but clearly I'm not. This one, just looking at it, it's already not as opaque as the Speedball. Despite the fact that it feels a lot thicker to put down on the paper. I'm using bristle board, by the way. And I'll go to the Higgins. Higgins is another thinner, more watery ink. Check that out. So that's got a really watery feel to it, and it comes out a lot less opaque than the Speedball did, and even less opaque than the Windsor Newton, which I'm surprised by. But I guess I shouldn't be, because I've had that ink for a long time and I don't ever use it. I guess I kind of know why. Alright, next up, the Dr. P.H. Martin. Dr. P.H. Martin Bombay Black. Another fairly thin and watery looking consistency. Oh yeah, that just coming out of the bottle looks almost like a watercolor. Next up we have the Liquitex acrylic ink. Full disclosure, this is one that I've been using quite a bit lately. It's become one of my favorites. But looking back at the Speedball, I'm wondering why I've written that off the way I have. I think I'm gonna have to go back to that just from, the initial testing. We'll see. I'm really curious to see how it compares to the Liquitex. Now the Liquitex is a little bit thicker consistency. It's not super watery. Seems to go down fairly opaque. I'm already noticing that as it's drying, it's not looking as black as it did when it went down. Alright, and last up is the Yasutomo traditional Chinese ink. I think I'm pronouncing that right. I realized earlier today that I thought it was Yasumoto. That's definitely not it. I'm dyslexic and can't read. This one I'm going to have to pour into something. Probably should have found a container to put this in before I started filming. Fortunately enough, got some cups right here. Well, it's got a lovely black look to it. This is another ink that has an odor to it. Maybe that should be another category that I examine. Does it smell? Does it stink? Should I be using it in a ventilated room? So next I'm going to come back, I'm going to let everything dry real good, then I'll come back and test their waterproofness. Okay, and we're back. Everything is dry now, and I've got some water. So we're going to test how waterproof all these inks are. Go right down the line, start with Speedball. That seems to be Dr. P.H. Martin's Bombay Black. Now this one, okay, yeah. I'm definitely seeing some smearing. It's definitely not just, it's not just the water darkening the paper, that's definitely, so that guy's not waterproof. It does say on the label, it's light, fast, and waterproof. And it's been a good 20 to 30 minutes since I took the break and let these guys dry. And that wasn't even one of the last ones I did, so. Windsor Newton. Looks like that guy is doing a little more. I don't think it's my brush, but I'm going to switch brushes. Liquitex. And then the Yasutomo, traditional Chinese. Yeah. Ooh, that one really is not waterproof. Okay, now I'm gonna let this dry, and then we'll take a look at what the dried effect looks like and see how bad it actually smeared after being introduced to water. Okay. Okay, so we're back. Everything's dry now, and gotta say I'm a little disappointed, and maybe I just didn't let things dry long enough, but I'm disappointed. Now that everything's dry, I can see that everything bled a little bit. Some much worse than others, but everything has a little bit. I'm not sure if it's gonna show up on camera on all of them, but obviously the worst offenders are, I think the worst is the Yasutomo. Yeah, because you got nice big streak here. Second worst was the Windsor Newton, the Liquid India ink. And then the third was the Bombay Black. The Speedball, the Higgins, and the Liquitex, they came out, they fared pretty well, but there is a little bit of runniness on there. So I don't know if I should have taken longer to let them dry, but as far as I could tell, they were dry. So I don't know, I don't feel like giving them an hour or 2 hours would have made any real difference. So, for the hell of it, for science, I'm going to do the test again. I'm going to give all these guys a full hour to dry, and then I'm going to come back and I'm going to do the same test and see if the results are any different. Alright, I'm back again. It's been actually a couple hours. I only intended to do one, but then after the hour it was lunchtime, so I had lunch with my wife, and now I'm text or something. But now I'm back and we're going to do the final waterproof test and see how things compare after 2 hours now. And already I can pretty much tell that nothing's really changed. From what I can see right here, The results are exactly the same. Okay, so for the conclusion, after doing this, I'm going to change up my criteria a little bit. Still use what I started out with, but I'm going to add blackness to the judging, because I originally intended that as, for opacity, but I realize now they're two different things. So, because I have things that are very opaque, but different qualities of black. So the Speedball, definitely the blackest of anything that I tried. Opacity, really good, though there are some spots in it that didn't cover well. If I'd gone back over it with a brush and been more careful, maybe it would have covered. So I think opacity, it's still, yeah, I'm gonna give it on opacity. 2 thumbs up on opacity. It's got a nice flow, had fairly good control over the line weight with the brush, so that's all good. Waterproof, it's the absolute best of anything else that I've tried, though not 100% waterproof even after 2 hours of drying. Higgins Black Magic, opacity, it definitely fails on that by a lot. 5 out of 10, I wouldn't even give that. 2 out of 10 on opacity. It might be good if you're looking for something to use as a wash, if you're trying to do grayscale, but I would not try to use this as a blacking. Blackness, no, it's gray. No doubt about it, it's gray. And waterproof, it held up better than a lot of others, but it wasn't best. Definitely not. I wouldn't consider it completely waterproof. Just behind the Speedball and waterproof. P.H. Martin's Bombay Black, well, not waterproof. Not waterproof at all. As far as opacity, not very opaque and not very black. So maybe a 3 on all those scales. And then next, the Winsor Newton Liquid India ink. Pretty disappointed in this. I expected a product from Winsor Newton to be better. The coverage just wasn't great. It's a very inconsistent. So I have spots that are very opaque, and then I have spots that are super not. I have black and gray, all from the one stroke of a filled brush. So that leads me to believe that where the spots that actually got like thick, it's opaque and it's black, but the places where it didn't get very thick, it's watery looking and it's less opaque and it's more gray. And as far as the waterproofness, no, don't trust that at all. The Liquitex acrylic ink. This kind of proved to me, I think, exactly why this is has been my favorite ink for a little while. It goes on the paper really smoothly. It's not watery. It's not really watery consistency. It's a little bit thicker than that, which I like. It goes on the paper smooth. It dries opaque, and it's very dark. It's not a 10 out of 10 black like I would say maybe the Speedball is, but it's damn close. It's a solid 7. I think I could call it an 8 as far as blackness. And it's smooth. I can make clean lines with it, and I think it's still at the top of my list. I think I'm going to have to revisit the Speedball and try that out a little bit more. But still, the Liquitex acrylic ink is kind of my fave. As far as the Yasutomo traditional Chinese ink, this kind of ended up being different than what I remembered it being. It came out for opacity and blackness, came out really well. This is an ink that I tend to use mostly for large black areas because it is an ink. It comes in this big, I have small hands, but still, this is a big, it comes in this big container of ink. My hands aren't very big, but, you know, compare this to this. You know, if I've got a lot of spot blacks, you know, if I want to fill half a page with black, I'm less likely to use something like this. But this stuff, you know, I can just spill it all over my page like that. Tip, always put your caps back on your ink when you were done. It did not get on my shirt. Just all over the desk. Isn't that lovely? I don't know what that was. I'm sorry. Forgive me. But, you know, despite the accident there, that is actually how I use it sometimes. When I know I have a lot of black. It's still up now. But I can just pour it on the page and then come in with a brush and spread it around. I have legitimately done that from time to time. And like I was saying, that's what I like about that ink, is it does have the blackness, it does have the opacity. I don't feel like I like it for lines as much. And I think if you look at the lines that I made here, I had less control over it than I did with something like, or like any of the others. So there you have it, my comparison of these various ink. Let me know what you think. What, out of this, what do you think would be your go-to ink? Like I've said, mine has been the Liquitex acrylic ink for quite a while. I'm gonna revisit the Speedball. I've had bad opinions about the Speedball. I think just because I thought it's the thing that came with the pack. It's cheap. It's gotta be no good. And I know I've tried it in the past, but I'm really starting to reconsider it. I think I'm gonna have to try it more. And for a number of these, I'm seeing why I don't use them. But also considering maybe I could, just not for black. Maybe if I use them for washes, for grayscale art, that might be a better use for these two inks. And that's something I haven't really thought about in the past. I've just taken the Liquitex or the Speedball that's nice and super dark and mix them with water to get a wash. And that's still a really good method. But if I just had the lighter tone to begin with, maybe I could experiment with that. So that's going to do it for this video. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time.